today's hyper-digital world, where every click and swipe matters, we're diving deep into a topic that resonates with many: payment security, especially against the evolving landscape of social engineering and the importance of informed consumers. It's crucial to understand that security isn't just a corporate responsibility, it's a shared one. Each one of us holds the key to protecting our personal data and finances. That's why today we'll be unraveling the intricacies of the Visa Stay Secure initiative, shedding light on some eye-opening findings from Visa's latest study. We will be talking trust, why it's so important, and exploring the situations in which people sometimes place their trust impulsively and become ensnared by deceptive language. And of course, we'll arm you with actionable tips to steer clear of these pitfalls. Joining us in this enlightening conversation is Charles Lobo, Senior Vice President and Regional Risk Officer for Central and Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa at Visa. Let's dive in. Charles, as we kick off our conversation, I'd like to center it around trust. What are your thoughts about the very concept of trust? What fuels it, and how does it drive digital payments growth?
David, thank you for that question. Trust, I believe, is at the backbone of all our relationships. It's the core of our business interactions. Every decision that we make is rooted in trust. At Visa, it's the very essence of what we do. It has guided our innovations, our investments, and our partnerships for over 60 years. We conducted research to identify and measure what we call the trust index. This index is a composite of 5 elements: reassurance, transparency, expertise, reliability, and social validation. Research has shown us that for consumers, of these 5 elements, the most important is reassurance. Now, what that tells us is that security is not just about protection. At its very root, it's about instilling confidence in transactions and in the safety and security of assets. When people see the Visa logo, they are 3 times more likely to walk into a store and conduct a transaction. And when people see the Visa logo online, they are 5 times more likely to attach higher credibility to that online merchant.
That was really enlightening, Charles. Building on that, I'm keen to understand how trust has become pivotal in our increasingly digital world. Can you explain how it became even more significant with the evolution of money?
You know, David, you talk about the evolution of money, so allow me to rewind quite a bit in time and go back to ancient times. So in ancient times, if I had 10 bags of wheat and you had 2 goats, and I needed a goat and you needed some wheat, we would get together, we'd sit down, I'd check out the goats, you'd check out the wheat. We'd decide what a fair exchange of value would be for those 2 items, and then we'd exchange, and that was called barter. At the very heart of that was the fact that we were trying to establish trust, that I could trust you with what you were giving me and you could trust me. So trust was at the heart of being able to establish value and exchange value and conduct the exchange of value. Now, when we fast forward to today's world, which is shopping online, we are using apps to order food and all of that, we don't have the luxury of sitting down together face to face and establishing trust before we conduct a transaction. The speed of the transactions are so much faster. They're done in matter of seconds. So in a matter of seconds, there has to be trust established for the exchange of value to take place. And that's what Visa is completely committed to. So we are investing in building our network, building tools, building facilities, building services that enable people in the modern digital world to be able to establish trust so that value can be exchanged and commerce can get done. I'll share an anecdote with you. way back in 1994, when the internet was barely 1 year old, the first online transaction was conducted using a Visa card on VisaNet to buy a pepperoni pizza. Imagine that. Today, buying a pizza online is just one of billions of transactions that take place. But for those billions of transactions to take place, the establishment of trust in the moment, in milliseconds, is essential and forms a very, very integral component to enable commerce to get done.
Pivoting to the realm of payments ecosystem, Visa's Stay Secure campaign stands as a beacon of trust, with its roots tracing back to the UAE in 2016. Could you talk a bit about the campaign's evolution and pivotal milestones? Why is this initiative so important in today's context?
Like you rightly said, this started in 2016 in the United Arab Emirates as a single country initiative. So it was a partnership between Visa and the Dubai Department of Economic Development. And the goal was to solve for how do we build up consumer awareness of security matters, of fraud, of scams. So that was its starting point. And it was very successful. We got a lot of positive response, both from our partners in the government as well as from consumers who saw this campaign at work. And so fast forward to 2022, we expanded it to 7 countries. So now we were covering the Gulf Cooperation Council, the GCC, as we call it, countries in North Africa and Pakistan as well. And again, we met with tremendous success, a lot of very, very positive response and feedback to our campaign. So in 2023, this year, we doubled down. In fact, we went from 7 countries to 17 countries across the CEMEA region. So for the very first time, we took the campaign to Ukraine. We took it to Kazakhstan. We took it to markets across sub-Saharan Africa and Southeastern Europe. And again, the response has been fantastic. We start with Stay Secure by conducting research. We connected with close to 6,000 individuals across these 17 markets. The objective of the research was to uncover and identify with these individuals, do they understand the language of fraud? At Visa, we call this fraudulence. So we wanted to know, do consumers or do individuals understand this language? Are they able to identify this language? Are they able to become more aware of the scams? After we conducted this research and we looked at all the findings, we put all of this together and we created assets for consumer awareness. And for the very first time, we built a public website. It's got tremendous assets like educational videos. We've got some very interesting knowledge repositories that we've created. We've created multimedia resources that can be used very effectively. So, this has been our way of serving the communities that we work in. It's our way of being able to give back, to be able to enable consumers to be empowered with information and to be empowered to know what the language of fraud is and to be empowered to understand when a scam is at work. So that's what Stay Secure 2023 is all about.
Okay, delving deeper into the Stay Secure campaign this year, what nuances set this year's campaign apart? What are some of the key takeaways from the Stay Secure 2023 study you'd like to spotlight?
So for me, David, the headline of Stay Secure 2023 is what we call costly confidence. Personally, I call it expensive hubris. What do I mean by that? So the study has revealed that there is a clear disconnect between consumers' confidence in recognizing fraud and scams and their actual behavior online. So let me share a few numbers with you to bring this to life. When we surveyed this close to 6,000 people, a little over half of them, 56% of them to be precise, claimed that they were savvy enough, knowledgeable enough to understand and detect a fraud. However, in that same 56%, 9 out of 10 of them would disregard the red flags and the signs of a fraud or a scam when it was actually happening. So, this false sense of confidence lulls people into believing that they know enough to protect themselves. But when something actually is going bad or going wrong, their guard is down and they're not able to defend themselves. So that's the second observation. The third observation is that these very same people spend a lot of time worrying about other people. So they're worried about their family members falling victim to fraud. They're worried about their co-workers falling victim to fraud. So these three elements are very, very distinct in this year's study. And they all point to the fact that confidence is costly.
That 90% interaction with scam messages is indeed alarming. Could you shed light on the nature of these deceptive tactics? How can we recognize and sidestep them?
That's a great question, David. And the reason being is that the sophistication with which these attacks are being orchestrated and put together is at an unprecedented level. So the bad guys, the fraudsters, have access to technology. Technology is getting cheaper and cheaper, and there's a ton of new technology like generative AI, which is so widespread in its use. And all these technologies is allowing the bad guys to really build and craft very, very sophisticated attacks, whether they're attacks on an individual or whether it's attacks on an organization. So through our research, what we uncovered is some underlying themes that remain constant irrespective of the type of attack or the level of sophistication of the attack. So let me tell you a little bit about these three fundamental dimensions of how an attack gets put together. The first is creating a sense of urgency. The criminals will always try to create a feeling that something is very, very urgent. So they'll pose as a government official or a law enforcement official, and they'll make a call and create a sense that for example, your government ID has been blocked. You will not have access to government services. So the urgency is created that you need to act fast to unblock it. So that's one dimension, creating the urgency, creating a sense of urgency. The second dimension is about positive news. We all react positively to positive news. Common examples are you won a big prize. Yeah? You've been selected for a fabulous holiday. Great news. So everyone feels, wow, this is very positive. The third dimension is having a call to action or urging immediate action. So you won this great prize. Here's what you need to do. Here are a few easy steps to claim your prize. So the inducement is there because it's positive news, and it's followed up very quickly with a call to action, and that action is backed by the sense of urgency. So that's how these three dimensions come together to craft and create a scam situation. And these are very fundamental. So, like I said, it doesn't matter what the type of attack is. These three fundamental elements are always a component that we had uncovered as part of our research.
And finally, what practical advice would you offer to our viewers who want to bolster their online security and minimize the risk of falling prey to digital scams? Are there any key action steps or best practices you recommend?
David, there are lots and lots of recommendations to be made, but I want to address something which is very core, which is very fundamental, and which doesn't change. The, the fact is that when you receive an offer or you get a communication that you weren't expecting to receive, stop, pause, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, does this make sense? Is this too good to be true? Because if it's too good to be true, it's probably not true. And you see, the fraudsters are always trying to get you to do something that you shouldn't be doing. We talked about the three dimensions that they use. So when those three dimensions are happening, most folks don't pause and ask themselves, does this really make sense? And I think that's very fundamental. If we just took a moment to say, should I really be clicking this link? Is this really my bank trying to call me? If we just ask ourselves those basic questions, that's really what would help us tremendously. Now, apart from this very basic and fundamental thing, I can give you some of the common tips which are essential. One is, don't share your personal information. There has to be a good reason to share your personal information. Why would you give someone your bank account number, your PIN, or any detail unless there's really a very fundamental reason? So don't share your personal information unless there's a good reason. Banks provide customers with various methods of alerting. So today we have alerts that come over SMS, over WhatsApp, over email. Pay attention, sign up to those alerts. It's most of the time it's free. It's a free service. Sign up for the alerts, pay attention to those alerts. When those alerts come, if you don't recognize the transactions, call your bank, call your financial institution. If you get a message from the government and you don't think it's from the government, go on a website of that department, find out their phone number and give them a call. Ask them if they've sent you the message. So just being cautious, pausing, asking a few basic questions, and being satisfied that this is something that you should be engaging in, all basic elements that we should be. Finally, I'd like to reinforce one singular message. Security is a shared responsibility. Everyone has to do their bit. The advancements in payment security are also moving at a very rapid rate. For example, Visa is investing billions of dollars in this domain. But it can't just be about the technology. The technology can't solve everything. Everyone in the ecosystem has a responsibility. And it starts with the consumers who are the first line of defense. So consumers should devote time to understanding the language of scams, keeping themselves aware, keeping themselves up to date on these matters. And really, for institutions that have customers and value their customers, they need to empower their customers with this knowledge. Create those situational opportunities for them, for customers and consumers to raise their awareness, to be more aware, to be more alert. And by doing that, we create a positive circle where everybody is doing their part, not just one domain. Everyone has to share the responsibility of keeping safe. At Visa, we are tremendously committed to combating fraud by partnering with like-minded stakeholders to really secure this digital payments ecosystem, which is so important and so valuable to all of us.
Thank you for joining us today, Charles.
Thank you, David. I really appreciate it. It's been great talking to you.
Your insights into the mechanics of frauds and scams and the pivotal role of trust in our digital interactions have been deeply enlightening. It serves as a potent reminder for all of us to uphold trust and maintain vigilance as we engage with the digital realm on a daily basis. To our viewers, please visit the Visa website to learn more about the Visa Stay Secure campaign. It's a treasure trove of information and resources designed to arm you with the knowledge to protect yourself against scams and fraud.